8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news, edited by Danushka Madhavella and read by Indrani Senanayaka. The headlines. 2 new ministers were sworn in. Sri Lanka and Saudi Arabia prioritize economic ties in garment and tourism sectors. Water Ministry unveils plans for sustainable water management and tariff reform. Cabinet approval has been granted to establish refinery in Hambantota. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena has emphasized that the need for a national program to develop the country is essential. In foreign news, lightning and rain killed 24 in western India, and in sports news, Bellingham breaks scoring record as Real return top. The President's Media Division reported that 2 new ministers were sworn in a short while ago before President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Accordingly, Harin Fernando, currently serving as the Minister of Tourism, was sworn in as the new Minister of Sports, while Minister Pavitra Wanyarachi, currently serving as the Minister of Wildlife and Forest Resources Conservation, was sworn in as the Minister of Irrigation. The new appointments come on the heels of former Minister of Sports and Irrigation Roshan Ranasinghe's removal from his ministerial portfolios. Earlier today, the SLBC parliamentarian said that he received a letter from President Wickremesinghe informing him that he had been removed from all his ministerial portfolios and positions. The Minister of Economy and Planning for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Honorable Faisal F. Alibrem, met with President Ranil Wickremesinghe this afternoon at the Presidential Secretariat. During the discussions, Minister Faisal F. Alibrem emphasized Saudi Arabia's keen interest in strengthening economic ties with Sri Lanka across various sectors, including garments and tourism. He stressed that his government was focused on expanding economic relations within the region and regarded Sri Lanka with significant importance. President Ranil Wickremesinghe welcomed the minister's comments, asserting that Sri Lanka is actively promoting enhanced cooperation in Asia, including West Asia. He further highlighted that the tourism and agriculture sectors were areas open to greater investment as the country is committed to modernizing these domains. Minister of Water Supply and Estate Infrastructure Development, Jeevan Thondaman, emphasized the ongoing discussions surrounding the formulation of a water tariff, emphasizing the need for a formula that sustains the water board while maintaining fairness for the general public. With the major domestic category comprising 75% and Samurdhi at 1.5%, the government aims to prioritize these sectors over industries, albeit without pressurizing them. Addressing a media briefing at the Presidential Media Centre today, Minister Thondaman said discussions are still in progress considering 2 parallel formulas, one focused on cost recovery and the other on cost reflection. The final draft of the tariff formula is expected in December with a commitment to avoiding unnecessary burden on the public. There is a possibility of an increased tariff rate for commercial institutions with an emphasis on ensuring fair rates for charitable institutions, hospitals and schools. The government plans to engage in public-private partnerships to enhance water quality and reduce costs. The minister clarified that while projects would involve private participation, there is no intention to sell or privatize water. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, and we continue with local news. Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijayasekara, said that it has been decided that the China Petroleum and Chemical Corporation will be awarded the contract to establish a new petroleum refinery and associated product processing centre in Hambantota. Accordingly, the Cabinet approval was granted today to award the contract to Sinopec to enter into an agreement to establish a new refinery and associated product processing centre in Hambantota. That ends the local segment of news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Veda Mahatmya.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says a 4-member Sri Lankan family who was stranded in the Gaza safely arrived in Sri Lanka last Friday. The Consular Affairs Division of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs facilitated the repatriation of the family. Upon their arrival in Colombo, officials from the Foreign Ministry received the returning Sri Lankans. The officials from the Sri Lankan Embassy in Cairo, working in coordination with the Egyptian authorities, visited the Rafah border between Egypt and Gaza and received the stranded Sri Lankans. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs facilitated the arrangements of logistics and air transportation for the returnees with the assistance of the International Organization for Migration. A total number of 15 Sri Lankans have been rescued from the Gaza Strip through the Rafah border, and they were safely repatriated to Sri Lanka.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Vedamahatmya.
We now take a look at Watchlight. The number of leprosy patients in Sri Lanka has shown an increase recently. Leprosy Control Unit Director Dr. Prasad Ranavira said that over 1,300 leprosy cases have been reported from Sri Lanka. He stated that from January to October this year, 1,256 patients have been reported in the island. He also said that 256 patients have been reported from Colombo, 130 from Batticaloa, 92 patients from Kalutara, and the rest from other districts. World News, first the headlines. Lightning and rain killed 24 in western India. South Korean man gets 14-month jail term for praising North in poem. Israel says talks on next Gaza hostage release still ongoing. At least 24 people have been killed in lightning strikes and rain in India during intense storms. Officials said that the rain damaged houses and killed livestock across western Gujarat state. Storms are unusual in Gujarat during winter. Meteorologists said that the fierce downpour caught many off guard. Flash floods and lightning strikes kill thousands of people in India each year. Scientists are warning that rising global temperatures are fueling a surge in extreme weather events. Rising land and sea surface temperatures warm the air above and make more energy available to drive thunderstorms from where lightning emanates. Rain and hailstorms were expected to continue in western India today. At least 18 of the 24 deaths were attributed to the lightning strikes. A South Korean court has sentenced a 68-year-old man to 14 months in jail for praising the North in a poem. Lee Yoon-seop advocated for unification in his piece that was published in the North State India media in 2016, South Korea media reported. He wrote that if the two Koreas were united under Pyongyang's socialist system, people would get free housing, healthcare, and education. He was convicted under a law that prohibits public praise of North Korea. In the piece titled Means of Unification, Lee also urged that in a united Korea, fewer people would take their own lives or live in debt. The poem was one of the winners of a poetry contest in the North in November 2016. Israel says negotiations are still continuing over the hostage and prisoner releases expected today, on the fourth and final day of the current truce. International efforts are continuing to extend the temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Israel is offering a day's pause in fighting for every 10 additional hostages released from Gaza, while Hamas says it is seeking an extension. As part of the Israel-Hamas deal, 39 Israeli hostages in Gaza have been released so far, with 117 Palestinians freed from Israeli jails. Further lorry loads of humanitarian supplies entered the Gaza Strip today, with food, fuel and medicines being distributed by aid organizations. Hamas's attacks on the 7th of October killed 1,200 people, with about 240 taken hostage. Since then, Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says more than 14,500 people have been killed in Israel's retaliatory campaign. To end this bulletin of world news, the headlines again. Lightning and rain killed 24 in western India. South Korean man gets 14-month jail term for praising North in poem. Israel says talks on next Gaza hostage release still ongoing. That ends this bulletin of World News.
Development News.
The Sri Lankan delegation, led by the ambassador and the permanent representative to the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, Chaminda Kolonne, participated at the 7th Asian Pacific Population Conference in Bangkok, Thailand. Opening remarks were delivered by the Executive Secretary of UNESCAP, while the Minister of Social Development and Human Security of the Kingdom of Thailand delivered the keynote address. Delivering the country's statement, the Director General of Health Service of the Ministry of Health of Sri Lanka, Dr. Asela Gunawardena, stated that as a nation, Sri Lanka has achieved gender parity in education and that efforts are being taken to promote gender equality in labour. He also stated that Sri Lanka is also introducing steps to mitigate challenges related to the rapidly aging population in the country, and the full potential of Sri Lanka's population is tapped.
Moving on with sports news.
Jude Bellingham scored his 14th goal of the season as Real Madrid returned to the top of La Liga with a 3-0 victory at Loli Cadiz. He now has the most goals by any Real Madrid player in their first 15 games. The previous record of 13 was jointly held by Cristiano Ronaldo, Alfredo Di Stefano and Pruden. England midfielder Bellingham has 11 goals in 12 La Liga games and 3 in the Champions League since joining from Borussia Dortmund in the summer. Real went into the game 2 points behind Girona and took an early lead through Brazil towards Rodrigo. The 22-year-old then doubled Real's lead midway through the second half. And that was sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The United Arab Emirates plan to use its role as the host of UN climate talks as an opportunity to strike oil and gas deals. The BBC has learned through leaked briefing documents revealed plans to discuss fossil fuel deals with 15 nations. The UN body responsible for the COP28 summit told the BBC hosts were expected to act without bias or self-interest. The UAE team did not deny using COP28 meetings for business talks and said private meetings are private. It declined to comment on what was discussed in the meetings and said its work had been focused on meaningful climate action.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
The Prime Minister is hosting a group of leading business figures at Hampton Court to highlight foreign firms' plans to invest in the UK. Rishi Sunak said £29.5 billion of new investment has been promised, which he described as a huge vote of confidence in the UK economy. Last week's autumn statement included some measures to encourage more business investment, but it came against a backdrop of lower growth forecasts. The autumn statement measures were largely designed to persuade domestic firms to invest more.
Weather report.
And finally, we take a look at the weather report. A showery condition is expected to enhance over most places of the island for the next few days, starting from today. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the eastern and NOV provinces. Several spells of showers will occur in the northern and north-central provinces. Showers or thundershowers may occur at several places in other provinces, at some places in the central, Uva, western and Sabaragama provinces, and in the Gaul and Matara districts. That was the weather report. To end tonight's news broadcast, we take a look at the headlines again. 2 new ministers were sworn in. Sri Lanka and Saudi Arabia prioritize economic ties in garment and tourism sectors. Water Ministry unveils plans for sustainable water management and tariff reform. Cabinet approval has been granted to establish refinery in Hambantota. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena has emphasized that the need for a national program to develop the country is essential. In foreign news, lightning and rain kills 24 in Western India. In sports news, Bellingham breaks scoring record as Real return top. That ends tonight's news broadcast.